We usually clean when no one is around. In Germany, we say we are the invisibles.
When the essential work happens behind the scenes. Welcome to Unsung Cleaners, a podcast where Europe's cleaners tell their stories in their own words. I'm Gail Rego, the host of this podcast, and together we'll go on a journey to uncover the essential yet often invisible role that cleaners have on our everyday lives. It's 5:52 p.m. in a quiet city suburb. Most people are heading home, slipping into warm kitchens, hugging their children, queuing for groceries. But somewhere in a dimly lit stairwell or an empty corridor, someone else's shift is just beginning. In our first episode, we explored what it meant to do crucial work and still go unseen. Today, we ask what happens when that work is scheduled in the shadows. Most people work during the day, and there's a reason for that. Daytime work aligns with our natural rhythms: sleep, movement, and digestion. It's how we've evolved to function. But some jobs don't follow the sun. Cleaning is one of them. When most of us head home, an entire workforce heads out, taking that 6 p.m. bus with people going the opposite direction. They're not just skipping dinner at home. They're missing bedtimes and birthdays, moments of rest and connection traded for late shifts that stretch into the early morning. And this isn't just a small group of cleaners. A global research working against the clock by UNI Europa from 2023, covering more than 2,500 cleaners from across 32 countries, found that nearly half work outside of regular daytime hours. And for 70% of them, it's not by choice. It's often the only way to earn enough to make ends meet. But what's the cost of working while the rest of the world sleeps? Recent research from the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the University of Greenwich, and many others shows that night work doesn't just mess with your sleep, it rewires your health. Disrupted circadian rhythms, chronic fatigue, increased risk of cancer. The same UNI Global Union survey found that 70% of night shift cleaners report being sleep deprived. And according to the American Association for Cancer Research, women who work night shifts in general have a 30% higher risk of breast cancer. But for women, health is not the only thing to worry about. There's a safety aspect too. Nearly half of the women working nights say they felt unsafe on the job or during their commute. This is about more than tired bodies. It's about insecurity and disrupted lives. It's about being asked to show up again and again in a world that forces you into the shadows. But it doesn't have to be this way. The global research by UNI Europa demonstrates that daytime cleaning is simply better. Better for workers, but also better for employers, clients, and the environment. Daytime cleaning saves on energy costs. It reduces staff turnover. It fosters recognition and, in turn, community cohesion. And yet, cleaners are still pushed into the margins of the clock. Not because the work requires it, but because somewhere along the way, invisibility became a business model. And what does that actually look like? This episode is about time, not having enough of it, and having it in all the wrong places. We meet two cleaners living in two different realities. Steffi Wlodraski in Germany, who knows the exhaustion of the night shift, and Naomi Asen in Norway, who shows us a more humane alternative. We'll also hear from Karin Zadadvar, a researcher in Austria, and Paola Bassetti, a CGIL union representative in Italy, who helps us understand the big picture. But first, to understand what working at night and split shifts actually entails and what pushing back looks like, we'll talk to Steffi. Stephanie Wlodraski has worked different jobs, including as a cleaner, for the same company for 25 years and is a member of IG Bau trade union. She started with night work at trade fairs in Germany when she was just 15, and now works full-time as a German Works Council member and at the European Works Council, fighting for better conditions for cleaners. Can you tell us what your role as a Works Council member entails? I think for many people in the audience, they might not know what that term actually is.
Also in Deutschland ist es so, dass wir uns für die Rechte der
In Germany, the Works Council stands up for employees' rights, making sure they have fair working conditions, are paid for all their hours, that health and safety rules are followed, and generally that staff well-being is respected. We also communicate with management, but the priority is always that our employees are doing well. Being a cleaner is a big challenge. It's not just vacuuming. Building cleaning is very broad. Facade cleaning, hygiene work, even bird deterrents.
und alle möglichen Sachen. Das ist also sehr, sehr umfangreich.
Steffi, you've been working in this sector as a cleaner as well for a really long time. I'm curious how aging in this sector has an impact on your physical and mental well-being.
Also natürlich fällt einem, wenn man älter
Of course, the older you get, the harder it becomes. You're not as agile, and cleaning 8 hours a day wears you down. You get back pain, knees hurt, arms ache, but people have to keep going because it's their livelihood.
verdienen halt ihren Lebensunterhalt mit reinigen.
Thanks for that. Have you worked night shifts? And can you paint a picture for us to tell us what a night shift looked like for you from the time you left home? And then once you arrived at the job, how it feels to kind of work when not a lot of other people are working?
Ja, also ich habe in meiner Laufbahn natürlich.
Yes, I've done night work, starting at 16 at the trade fairs. The fair business is pure night work. The exhibition closes at 6 in the evening, and then we invisibles come and clean everything for the next day. You get home around 4 in the morning, you're too wired to sleep. It's exhausting. And when you have rotating shifts, it's terrible. 1 week nights, 2 days off, then early shifts, then late shifts. The body, family life, social life, everything suffers. At that time, night work was the only option. Maybe 50 people worked days and 500 at night. Day cleaning wasn't really available. It's hard when you're alone at a site. You sometimes think, what if I collapse here? For women, it's often uncomfortable at night, especially when public transport stops. Being alone at night can feel unsafe. We often carpool to stay safe.
Hannover ist anders als Berlin. Das ist immer sehr, sehr unterschiedlich.
Steffi, you've described how night shifts can disrupt everything from your body to your relationships, but there's also another kind of scheduling that cuts up time in a different way, split shifts, where workers clock in every few hours in the morning, then again in the evening, and usually with long, unpaid gaps in between. How would you say that this kind of fragmented schedule affects the rhythm of your life, your sleep, your caregiving duties, or your social time?
Also Schichtdienst ist, glaube ich, für jeden.
Shift work is exhausting for everyone. You have to build your whole life around the schedule. Family, kids, social life. Some manage it, some can't. It's very demanding.
System rumbauen. Das ist sehr anstrengend.
And some people argue that these split shifts, that they give workers flexibility. Is this something that that is reflected in your experience or in the experiences of the cleaners that you represent? Do cleaners generally find split shifts flexible?
Also ich würde sagen, das stört den Ablauf.
It
des
actually
Tages.
disrupts daily life. Our cleaners need regular routines. Most are women with families and children. Shift work makes that really hard.
Mitarbeiter, also wenn ich jetzt an unsere Mitarbeiter.
The worst effect is losing your social life. If you can only meet friends once a month, you lose touch. Physically, too, humans aren't built to work at nights. Eventually, the body breaks down and says, that's enough.
Freunden nicht mehr angesagt, dann bin ich raus.
Steffi's experience shows how irregular work hours, especially night shifts and split schedules, can destabilize every part of a cleaner's life. But this isn't just anecdotal. These experiences reflect deeper systemic patterns, and researchers across Europe are observing strikingly worrying patterns. Award-winning sociologist Dr. Karin Zadadver is one of them.
Working split shifts means that you have 2 shorter shifts on one day and unpaid interruption of several hours in between. So typical working times for cleaners, for example, in Austria, working in offices would be from, say, 6 to 9 in the morning, and then again from 5 to 8 in the evening. And the time in between is unpaid time to be used by cleaners as they wish. But as we saw in our research, it's not really what we would call free time, leisure time, because the cleaners have to commute in this time, especially women do unpaid care and housework in this time if they can go home. And it is not really leisure time because cleaners always need to be ready to go to the second shift. And in our research, we saw that the implications of working split shifts for the workers are profound. They are severe. Split shifts made it difficult for cleaners to meet their friends, to take part in family life. It limited social integration. It made it, in some cases, difficult to fulfill childcare obligations, but also to have a fulfilling, rich family life. It made the workday very long, as particularly women combined paid work and unpaid work during the workday and then had very long workdays. Furthermore, what makes the life with split shifts very difficult is that fact that you have multiple ways to and from work. If you imagine that you live 45 minutes away from your work and you go there 4 times, then this means 3 hours of commuting every day. And this is not unusual for cleaners. We had a case of a cleaner who literally didn't see 2 of her 3 children during the whole work week, because when she left in the morning, her children were still asleep. And when she came back in the evening, the 2 younger of her 3 school children were already in bed. So she really didn't see her children the whole work week. This is also made possible by the fact that in some countries, for example in Austria, there is no limit as to how many split shifts a worker can have during the week. Cleaner in Austria can have split shifts every workday, as opposed to other professions. For example, in the collective agreement for care workers in Austria, there are some limitations as to how many split shifts they are allowed to have during the week. Why are split shifts used? Because there is the expectation that cleaning should be done invisibly. It should be done before or after other people in the building are working, for example, employees in offices, and that cleaning should not disturb the work of other people. And I think this is what needs to change. The expectation that cleaning is done at the margins of the day and does not disturb the more important work, so to speak. It needs to be recognized that cleaning is just as important as any other kind of work and therefore also needs to be done during normal office hours.
As Dr. Zadadver explains, the invisibility of cleaning work isn't inevitable. It's a result of long-standing assumptions. But has that finally started to change? Steffi, have you noticed any shift in how the public sees cleaning work these days?
Besonders unter Corona war in
During COVID, we proved we're essential, but financially we didn't feel it. Applause isn't enough. We worked non-stop.
Wir haben durchgearbeitet unter Corona in allen Objekten und rund die Uhr.
So, one main question that will come to all of our minds is, why are clients and employers so against daytime work and pushing for things like nighttime cleaning or split shifts? What are the arguments that they often use to justify doing this.
Also die Kunden wünschen das nicht wirklich.
Clients say it disturbs them, but we're pushing to normalize daytime cleaning again because most offices could be clean during the day.
Aber in der Regel, die meisten, kannst du auch tagsüber reinigen.
So what are the arguments you use to counter this narrative of the client needs to be comfortable while they're doing their job? What are the arguments that you use to counter that?
Wir haben die Kampagne, wollen nicht mehr die Unsichtbaren sein.
We've launched a campaign. We don't want to be the invisibles anymore. We want to belong, to work at normal hours, at least in offices and public buildings. At night, no one sees who cleaned. Clients don't know us. Daytime work means face-to-face contact, and that's important. You can take part in normal life again. Daytime means shared schedules, shared life. Work isn't everything.
Neben der Arbeit, weil Arbeit ist nicht alles.
Ultimately, the fight for daytime work and normal shifts is inseparable from the fight for a living wage and respect.
Das Geld muss zum Leben reichen und es muss noch ein bisschen.
Pay should be enough to live on with something left over. It's a tough trade, but cleaners earn too little. Even full-time workers need second jobs. That's not fair.
Dann fragt man sich, ist das alles noch gerecht?
The issues that Steffi describes aren't unique to Germany. In Italy, for example, split shifts aren't an anomaly. They're the norm for many, particularly women. And these scattered schedules don't just exhaust workers, they make it nearly impossible to build a collective voice. To understand how this plays out on the ground, we spoke to Paola Bassetti, the National Secretary for Cleaning at Italy's largest trade union federation, CIGIL.
In Italia I turni spezzati sono diffusi negli appalti del pulimento.
In Italy, split shifts are widespread in cleaning contracts. In fact, in order to secure a decent wage, many women workers start working at 6 in the morning and then finish in the late afternoon, moving between 2 or 3 workplaces and therefore working for 2 or 3 different employers. Split shifts and night work clearly lead women workers into isolation, invisibility, and the impossibility of having contact with other women and men workers. In short, fully experiencing collective life in the workplace becomes very difficult. It is also hard for them to go to union offices because having multiple employment contracts and therefore split shifts means they are unable to get in touch with us. As a result, this way of organizing work condemns them to profound isolation and deep invisibility.
Le condanna ad un forte isolamento e ad una forte invisibilità.
What we've heard so far, from Germany to Italy, shows how fragmented schedules and structural isolation can wear cleaners down and keep them apart. But there are exceptions to this model. Take Norway, for example, where Naomi began cleaning when she was just 14, and now is a union steward with the Norwegian General Workers Union, experiencing a different kind of reality.
I've been a cleaner for 11 years now. I've been based at the same spot. It's an industrial area. It can be pretty much anything. It can be offices, it could be production areas, it could be, pretty much anything. It can be a lot of oil on the floor, and sometimes it can be these metal parts, small, but it can also be offices. So it's kind of everything. But I enjoy it because every day is different.
Naomi, you mentioned that you transitioned from a food market. Did you need formal training to learn how to work in this sector?
Yes. So we have like this formal training when it's like a classroom training, and it's an online course at the side. And then you have this mentorship. So you follow a cleaner for 1 week. And then you change the area and the people you're following for another week. So it's a lot to learn, and it was a lot more than I thought when I started.
That's really interesting. So what are some of the things you appreciate about working in the cleaning sector and the job that you do?
I really appreciate that I can see what I have done. and that is physical. So when you enter a room and you are supposed to clean there, you can see the difference between when I came into the room and when I walk out.
What about some elements that you don't like so much with the job?
I think it's the time pressure, because usually you have this, you need to clean this room and you have 3 minutes on that room, 4 minutes in that room. And sometimes I feel that I can't do a good enough job. But also, we used to say that we don't get so much appreciation, but when we don't do our job, we get really appreciated when we come back. Because then you really see the difference. Before they were like, yeah, everyone can clean. It's not that important because everyone can do it. I do it home. But after COVID, they really saw the difference.
In Norway, that recognition translated into concrete rights during the crisis, setting a powerful precedent.
In Norway, we have this, some of the occupations, they could send their child to childcare and to school because their job was important enough for the society that they needed to be prioritized for work. And the cleaners were one of the, I think it was maybe 13 or 14 special occupations. So you really saw the difference then.
Daytime hours may usually be the norm in Norway, but the fight for the right daytime hours is still ongoing.
We usually say that daytime cleaning in Norway is from 6 in the morning. I think many cleaners start at 6, but we should, if we can change the time to maybe 7 or 8 in the industry and in the cleaning in general in Norway, we want to do that. We have this huge project with the union and with the companies that we will try to convince the customer that daytime cleaning is the best for everyone. So we are working for more daytime cleaning. So when you are alone with children, you can still be working as a cleaner, and you can still have this family time and your normal life, that you're not at work when everyone has free time and you don't get to see your children.
So you're talking about unionizing and kind of the campaigns around daytime work. Are you involved in the union, Naomi? And what drew you to be involved with them? What impact have you seen through being part of a union?
I was drawn to it because when I started, we had a really bad boss. And I was the only one who started to say that, this is not okay. You can't say that. You can't talk to us like that, and demanded that something was changed. Then we got help from the union. Actually, the boss was fired after a while. And then I was like, oh, so if I can help someone to get a better work life, because we are at work almost 1/3 of our life. So if I can help someone get a better life or get a better work life, of course I want to do that. Of course I want to help people. So that's why it started. And I have seen it make many changes, because they are, and now it's focused on daytime, and we see a change, and we can monitor the change through science and through asking. And we see the change when it comes to work rights in Norway. And that the cleaner now gets more higher payments than we used to do. Cleaners are often prioritized, so we have slow and steady in percentage gain more payments through the last 10, 12 years. And also rights for pension, because law in Norway that said that you don't need to get paid for the first 100,000 Norwegian kroners you were earning. But now they changed it, so you get your pensions from the first Norwegian kroner you make in your job. So it's been a lot of change, and I am a math geek. I love numbers, so I have calculated that that one change made me 600,000 more in pension, and I don't know what's it's in euro, but I think it's 55,000.
Being part of unions that push for collective agreements has led to increases in pensions up to 600,000 Norwegian krone, or 55,000 euros. But despite Norway's progress, challenges do remain, particularly around split and part-time shifts.
Most people in cleaning in Norway work daytime, but to have a full time, it's not that normal. Usually they get part time, and we see a lot of split shifts that you are working in the morning from 6 to maybe 9, and then you start all over again at 4 and work a few hours then. So you are part time and you are occupying your morning and you're occupying your evening. And then that creates a really bad work-life balance, because if you have children, when are you supposed to see them? But we don't have so much night work in Norway because it's really expensive. We have this law in Norway that if you are working usually night, you should get a percentage of raise, because when you are working nights, it's more bad for your health. So you get to work less hours but get the same payment.
That's really interesting. So you're able to work in the day, but you're talking about how split shifts still are, create a very fractured life. Between the shift that you do in the morning and the one that you do in the evening, is there a shift that you prefer?
I don't know. With the split shift, you lose almost everything of your social life. But when I come in the morning, it's dark and I'm alone. It's sometimes in some building it can be a bit frightening and a bit quiet. I'm a social person, so I think it's good to have people around me. I don't need to necessarily talk to everyone, but the feeling that there are people around me, I think it's really good. And the office people and the people in the production where I work, they are usually coming in around 8 and 9. When you have worked as long as I have, get to know some people. Because it's not always that I see my colleagues because we are working in different buildings. But I have a really good relationship with my customers, and some then I can eat lunch with or talk to about, what have you done in the weekend? How are you? And that really means a lot. And I think if I would lose that, if I were working nights and were just being by myself, I think maybe my husband would leave me, because I will call him all the night, so I have someone to talk to. If I could choose any time of the day I could work, I would work from 7 to 3. Because then 6 in the morning is really early. So, and I'm not a morning person. I will get 1 more hour in the morning than I have now. 1 more hour of sleep. Yeah, I will love that. But I also get to leave from work early. So I get to get the groceries, and I want to pick the children up, and I could have time for making a okay dinner before everything. We have hockey, we have dance, we have karate, we have go-kart as an activity as a family. So it's pretty hectic, but if I started from 7, I could get some sleep, but I also will end at 3. So I will make all these things happen still.
As a union steward, what do you think are the arguments that won daytime cleaning in Norway, and also arguments that could win daytime cleaning in other countries, for example?
So it's like being a part of a union. 40% says, yeah, but I've never been asked. So it's more like the company in this, when they are going to get this agreement that we are going to clean for them, ask if it's okay that we try daytime cleaning. Because what makes the rooms that the customers need to get clean, what makes them so important or so rare that they need to be cleaned just between 9 and 10. The companies are now trying to ask, but can we try? Because usually it hasn't been tried before. They have had this early morning cleaning or late afternoon cleaning, and they just we have always done it that way, so we will always do it this way. But if you ask, but can we try daytime cleaning? If the cleaners are in the company building when the workers are there, you don't need to get every air conditioner, every fan, or everything working so many more hours. So you can actually save energy and money because of the nighttime extra payment.
We talked a little bit about COVID, and in many jobs since COVID, working hours in general have changed. What was considered normal in terms of being in the office has kind of changed for a lot of desk job workers, and they've become more flexible. Do you think that companies are more willing to hear these needs from cleaners and to experiment more, as you were saying, since COVID? Or is it just slowly but surely through unionizing and through having conversations with companies?
I think that it's both, because the union from the company's perspective and the unions for the workers, we were agreeing in the COVID that cleaners were so important that they needed this extra with the childcare and everything. And after the COVID, we have been working together to get cleaners as a more high in the perspective in Norway in general. And like you said, many things were changed in the how we were working. And in the office desk, they have more home office, more like this hot desk where maybe 2 or 3 people are sharing a desk. So they are in and out of the office. And sometimes the office is just clear. And they are usually more agreeable now because they have changed as well. And also that the union were so strong and so clear through the COVID, that really, really changed.
Yeah, that makes sense. It worked really hand in hand, it sounds like. How do you think cleaners are perceived now in Norway? And cleaning as a profession, do a lot of people value it and see it as a viable career?
I think more people do it now because they feel much more safe, and they can see that it really makes a change. You can really see that it's a profession and not like everyone can do it. And it's been, the union have been more campaigning about what it really means to be a cleaner. And I think that, and they have been really good at keeping the momentum after COVID. So I think people have a lot more respect for the cleaning as a profession now than before. And cleaning is not a popular profession in Norway, and it's a tough profession. It's heavy, and we see that people are getting muscle and pain in their skeleton because of how tough it is. And also it's hard to get more to choose cleaning as a profession. So I think the technology and how it can be a part of the profession that can make the job less heavy, more easy to do. So I think that we need to focus more about that. If we get daytime cleaning or the flexibility that we see in offices into the cleaning profession as well, and if we get robot and technology and automatic things to work out, and of course higher payment, so they will consider it. I think that will change and that people will see it as a more profession.
For Naomi, all these changes, rights, technology, respect culminate in one simple, profound benefit: a better, healthier life.
I really appreciate that I can have a full-time job in the day, so I can have a pretty good life beside my job. So it's not that my job is my life, but I have a job because I want to have a life.
Whether it's Steffi's fractured nights or Naomi's early shifts, the real question is, does the invisible workforce that we depend on have a fair choice that works for them? And for us, what do we choose to value more? A short-term illusion of efficiency, or the long-term health, safety, and dignity of the people who hold our world together? Because the solution already exists. Daytime cleaning works. In hospitals across Europe, cleaners work side by side with nurses and doctors in some of the most high-pressure environments imaginable. It's not radical. It's common sense. And yet, in far too many places, cleaners are still being pushed into the shadows. So here's something to consider. Look around. In your office, your school, or your local hospital. Are the cleaners working during the day as part of the team, or are they invisible, working through the night after everyone else has gone home? If they're not visible, start asking why. Why don't we have daytime cleaning here? And does anyone benefit from that invisibility? Start a conversation with your building manager, your union rep, your HR team, or your student council. Bring it up in a meeting with decision makers. Because niggling questions can lead to change. And for the cleaners that we depend on, that change could mean better hours, better health, and a better life. In this episode, we looked at how cleaners are pushed into the shadows through night work and fragmented schedules. But there's another force shaping their invisibility: how cleaning work is contracted. Next time on Unsung Cleaners, we explore how public procurement and outsourcing impacts cleaners' rights and what it would take to build fair work. Thank you for listening to Unsung Cleaners. This podcast was produced by Southern Andler for UNI Europa. Interviews and narration by Gail Rago. Special thanks goes to Alessia Mora and Mark Bergfeld, and dubbers Maureen Hick and Alessandra Giannessi from UNI Europa. And to all the guests featured in this episode: Stephanie Wlodraski, Naomi Asen, Karin Zadadvar, and Paola Bassetti. Thank you for listening to Unsung Cleaners, a podcast supported by UNI Europa and co-funded by the European Commission. Subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts.